Hello and welcome to Shows to Astonish. I am your host, the Fat Mantis, and you're watching my review of Season 2, Episode 3 of The Mandalorian, entitled The Heiress, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. Now, I'll say that this is definitely a better entry into the Mandalorian canon than her last entry last year, which I believe was called The Sanctuary, Episode 4. So it starts off where our characters are still stuck in space, immediately left off from the last episode, and they hobble their way to what appears to be a water world. Now, I believe that this planet is Dak, although I don't think they named it, or perhaps they did, it went over my head, but it is populated by Mon Calamari and Quarren. Now, in the expanded universe of Star Wars, Dak, D-A-C, is the homeworld of both species. Both sentient water creatures live on a planet like this. So I'm assuming that it is, but who knows? Live action Star Wars tends to do whatever it wants. And they get there and it starts off where Mando does his best imitation of Launchpad McQuack, doing the worst landing in the history of Star Wars. Just when he thinks he gets it, it dumps right into the water, causing all sorts of chaos and perhaps a destroyed ship. Now, you know, if my ship landed in the water and was all messed up, I'd be pretty upset. It might actually ruin my day. I might be like, I'm not in the mood to hunt Mandalorians or Jedi. However, it did not seem to bother him one bit. Next, we move on to Frog Mother, as she is reunited with her husband. They even put on sappy, touching music, and they try to grab us on in the heartstrings. Didn't exactly do that, but I am glad they're they're together. My point is, if he loved his wife so much, why did you abandon her on a hostile desert planet? Think about that, bro. Not that I should question your marriage, but whatever. That's between you guys. Now, eventually, the Mandalorian does his shady bounty hunter thing in a cantina, and he eventually finds some people who can find him some Mandalorians. And they certainly do. They actually attempt to steal him and Baby Yoda on the high waters of this planet. And what should happen? But a Mandalorian flies down in blue and silver armor. As she turns around, it is very clearly the armor of Bo-Katan Kryze from Star Wars and Rebel fame. Now, it was interesting because she jumped right out of the cartoon into reality, and that certainly looked like her. And her and her Mandalorian buddies destroyed the Quarren, who took them prisoner. They save Baby Yoda, and they're there, and he's like, I found new Mandalorians, finally. And there's this great moment where she removes her helmet, no problem, and he thinks to himself, you see Mando, obviously you can't see his expression, but he thinks to himself, I have met some more fake Mandalorians. Oh, great. And it turns out that Bo-Katan Kryze points out that she's like, oh, we're regular Mandalorians. What kind are you? And so finally they explain something that has not been explained this entire time. So he is a part of a religious zealot cult referred to the Way of the Watch. Now, I assume they are referring to Death Watch, and to understand who Bo-Katan Kryze is and Death Watch, we're going to have to go back into Mandalorian canon and the backstory of this. So, the episode is called The Heiress, and I believe that is a reference to Bo-Katan Kryze. Now, for all of you not in the know, she is one of two princesses of Mandalore. Her father, the king, fought a civil war in the Mandalorian Civil War. His faction was referred to as the True Mandalorians. Their enemy faction was referred to as Death Watch. Death Watch were a fanatical cult, and they went up to the moons of Concordia, where they would eventually continue to try to strike back and retake their planet. They believed in the warrior ways. Now, the king had two daughters, Satine and Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan, being the younger daughter, was not going to inherit the throne anyway. However, she sided against her own father and decided to take up the warrior ways because she believes Mandalorians should be strong always. So she rejected royalty, flew off to the moons of Concordia, and became raised through the ranks of Death Watch and became the second in command. Now, obviously, the ways of Death Watch at the end of the Clone Wars are destroyed. And it almost seems like both factions have to come together to try to fight the coming Empire. Now, it's obvious she has given up her Death Watch ways. I am assuming the Way of the Watch is the remnants of Death Watch. And it's interesting to see Katie Sackhoff, who actually voiced Bo-Katan Kryze, play her. Now, she didn't. When you actually see her physically, she doesn't jump right out of the cartoon. She looks kind of different. And so what's interesting is both Duchess Satine and Bo-Katan in the cartoon, they looked like frail princesses. Like they had avian bone syndrome, as if all the years of inbreeding have made them frail and frigid and easily broken, like they're made of porcelain. And which was the irony of her becoming a warrior in the story. However, Katie Sackhoff looks like she's from a blue-collar, rough life. She looks like she was working as a truck driver since the age of 8. She's kind of like a rugged looking beauty there. But however, you know, she pulled it off. She played her thing. And so for the rest of this episode, we have a basically Imperial dungeon crawl in space. So you've seen it before in the video games, and you see it a lot in RPGs. It's where a few characters have to take over a ship, and every time they go into a room, there's other gunmen, other stormtroopers just to blow up. And watching stormtroopers get blasted is one of the most satisfying things in the world. It is a lot of fun to watch them wreak havoc and do all these things. And at the end of their dungeon crawl, or should I say spaceship crawl, they add they ham-fist an story arc for Bo-Katan Kryze in there, where she is looking for her Darksaber. Now the Darksaber belongs to the royalty of Mandalore, so that's technically her sword, and she wants it back. Now she name drops a very important person at the end of this episode, Ahsoka Tano, and she very blatantly tells Mando where he can find her. So this story is kicking into high gear. We might be a little early, but I'm glad, going into the red meat section. You know what I'm talking about? We're getting into the plot. We're gonna dive right in, and I'm actually glad that it's picking up pace on there. Okay, while I was editing the video, I came to this conclusion. Now, what if Moff Gideon is gonna be a founding member of the First Order? Huh? It's absolutely possible, because it seems like he wants to continue the Empire, and that's his goal. He's not just a warlord out for his own. He wants to bring back the Empire. Maybe all this resource gathering is going that way. Think about it. Just think about it. Then toward the end, there was like this sexual tension between Mando and Katie Sackhoff's character, Bo-Katan. I believe she added it, because you can't really tell with his helmet, but there was something really sexual when she took off her helmet and she was giving him the mission. Now, obviously, I ship Mando and every strong warrior. Personally, I want him to get with Cara Dune, and I'm wondering where Cara Dune is. She needs to get back into this story. Now, during this entire time, Baby Yoda was left with the frog people, and what's interesting is he had a little mini arc for the 1 or 2 scenes he's in. He learns to appreciate sentient life. That's right, he sees the babies hatching, he sees the little frog creatures, and he grows to love them, and perhaps maybe he's gonna stop eating sentient creatures. I hope that's where that plot was going, but it was kind of cute that they added it to the story. So far, the shortest of the season so far. I'm really hoping they go back into the 45 minutes. This was just half an hour. 45-minute episodes, or hopefully a full 55 minutes like the first opener. Now, what did you think of this episode? Ultimately, the Fat Mantis is going to have to give it an 85. Although it should have been marvelous to see Bo-Katan Kryze in actual live action, it didn't fully get there. There's something not that exciting about it. But 85 is good. It is a very good watch, and I highly recommend it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Remember to keep watching Voice of the Fat Mantis for more Mandalorian reviews and more shenanigans and games. Until next time, ciao for now.